Hello, my name is Reverend Xanga Dikenga-El, and today is August 16th, 2019. I'm going to answer some questions today that I keep getting from my students and apprentices over and over again so we can get things cleared up. My friend here is operating the camera and she's going to be asking me these questions, and hopefully we can get everybody informed.
Thank you. I'm honored to ask these questions. So the first one I'd like to ask is, there is a lot of information out there, a great deal of vague, some so technical. A lot of us are experiencing information overload. Can you please help those of us who are just coming into this find a place to start?
Yes, the main place you want to start is basic meditation, because if you don't have the ability to still your thoughts and clear out your mind, you're going to have problems down the road with that. And the first thing that you need to do is just learn how to focus on one thought. And the easiest way to do that, and the most productive way that I've found, is just to start with your breath work. And you start by concentrating on the breath and doing deep breathing, what we call shamanic breathing. And the way I'm going to explain how to do that, what you want to do is, usually we sit, you can sit with your hands up like this if you want. That doesn't really matter much until you get a little more advanced. But you want to take a deep breath, and you want to make sure that you breathe all the way through your entire thoracic region. There's some training that I put my students through to help them learn exactly how to do that. But you want to do what's this diaphragm breathing, all the way down into your belly to extend your lungs. And you inhale for a count. So say like you're just starting out, you want to inhale for a count of say 4. So you would go 1, 1,000, 2, 1,000, 3, 1,000, 4, 1,000. And that's an inhale. And then you hold it for half the count. So you would hold 1, 1,000, 2, 1,000. And then you would exhale for the same count, 1, 1,000, 2, 1,000, 3, 1,000, 4, 1,000. And then hold with the breath out for half the count and start the cycle all over again. Here's what that would look like.
Yes, but when I try to do that, it seems like I get, like it's harder to inhale the same amount that I'm exhaling. It seems like I'm exhaling a lot more breath than I'm inhaling. So it makes my count uneven. Does the count have to be exact?
Well, that's why we count, and we do the 1, 1,000, 2, 1,000, 3, 1,000, 4, 1,000. As you progress, you'll be able to drop that count and do it naturally. But in the beginning, you really want to make sure that you're counting, so you're paying attention, you're focused. The point is, again, is to focus your mind, not really the breath, but to focus your mind. So that's the point, is to focus your mind on the count and on the breath itself. And so when you're counting, and you're gonna inhale, and then once you stop, you got to make sure you stop inhaling. Because a lot of times what'll happen is you'll keep inhaling and when you're supposed to be holding. And then when you count to half, and then you start to exhale. And you inhale through the nose, and that's how you know you inhale. Inhale through the nose, exhale through the mouth. And it will, the exhale, of course, is going to be more forceful than the inhale because of the way the nasal passages are set up. That's okay. The point is to do it for the exact amount of time.
Okay. And what's the best way to keep my mind focused, do you think?
The best way is really just to focus on the counting in the beginning. And you focus, because it's going to be a little bit difficult to do all these things that I'm talking about in the beginning. So just focus at first on one thing at a time. once you master the count, then you want to go and master to make sure that your breath is rhythmic, and then you're holding at the proper time and exhaling at the proper time and inhaling at the proper time. And then you can focus on the count, and then so you'll just keep focusing your mind on what you're doing. Now what will happen naturally, this is going to happen to you, is your mind is going to wander through the middle of this, and you're going to start thinking about other things. The best thing to do in that is just recognize what it is and send it back to where it came from, and then continue along what you were doing.
What do you mean send it back to where it came from?
Yes, what I mean is when the thought comes in, you see it, you acknowledge it, and basically just move your focus away from the thought back to your breathing and your counting. And in doing that, then it will naturally flow where it came back from. Comes from the void. All thoughts come from some other being. And so you're just sending that thought, recognizing it, and then as you move your attention, and your attention is your consciousness. So your attention is the key. So you're moving it right back to the center and your breath, and you're following the path of your breath. And that'll help keep you centered.
And how long do I need to do this for?
In the beginning, probably want to do no more than maybe 5 or 10 minutes, depending on exactly how experienced you are in meditation. Once you get up to, say, you start at 5 minutes, you can get up to 10 minutes, then you want to go up to 15, and you increase it to 20 until you can get to about 30 minutes a day. And that is your beginning stage, when you can get to doing your breath work and focusing your mind and everything that's involved in that for 30 minutes a day. Then you're ready to move on to the next phase.
And what's the best position to be? Like, should I be laying down? Should I be sitting down? Should I be standing? What do I do?
Honestly, a lot of people say the best way is to do it is in half lotus. Some people can't get into half lotus, and some people can't sit down on the floor for whatever reason. So a chair will work. You can sit in a chair, and in a chair you want to keep, your legs, just trying to get comfortable. But the point is to keep your spine straight, whether you're sitting on the floor or in a chair. Now you can also do this standing up, and there are a lot of we go into the standing meditations and standing breath work, and a couple of courses like Primordial Power and the Zariguian Awakening, and Primordial Power and Way of the Thunder Dragon. Those are 2 different courses, Zariguian Awakening and Way of the Thunder Dragon, in that one series. And we get into a lot of the standing meditations during those 2 courses, and explore even more in some of the other more advanced courses as well.
Can you do it laying down?
You can, and that is one of the ways where I train my students how to do full thoracic breathing, is we start laying on the ground. And a lot of times you need to build up the abdomen and the abdomen muscles. And so that's another way to start doing that, is to start laying down and start your breath work like that. But eventually you want to progress to the point where you're sitting straight up.
Okay, I think I got that. What exactly is a spiritual awakening?
The spiritual awakening is when you get to doing in your breath work, you're building up a lot of chi inside of you. And the thing is eventually you're going to bring about what people call Kundalini awakening. And the spiritual awakening is really, that's what they're talking about. There's actually a lot of people walking around in the world right now who are spiritually awakened, are in the beginning stages of enlightenment, and don't even know that's what they're experiencing.
What is what? What did you call it?
Kundalini.
What does that mean?
In a lot of traditions, that is called the serpent power. Basically what that is when you build up enough life force energy, enough chi within your body, you awaken primordial essence of your life force, which is a stronger vibration. And so we talk about raising our vibration and all this stuff. Nobody really explained exactly how you raise your vibration. And the basic way of raising the vibration is through that breath work. And then once you get the Kundalini awakening, that is a spiritual awakening, and the energy, life force vibrates stronger and more powerful up the spine into the brain. Once it hits the brain, then it goes through the entire nervous system and it spreads through your entire body. And that really awakens your body to its spiritual truth.
Is that like, well, you were talking to me about a gland? There's a gland in the brain?
Yeah, there are a lot of people would talk about the pineal gland.
Yeah.
And that is part of the whole system within the brain. And so that's going to be awakened up as well. The pineal gland, or the third eye, is going to be awakened as well when you start to awaken this Kundalini energy. But you really have to awaken up the Kundalini energy, which lies dormant within the root chakra, or in the hips. And that's going to power the whole system. It's going to go through all of your chakras as it rises up your spine. And it's going to wake up each one of them. And as each one of them starts to come more alive, and then it finally gets to the head and wakes up the third eye and the crown chakra, which in some systems are one chakra, but in other systems they say it's two different chakras, but they're both going to wake up. And that is going to bring you to a new level of spiritual awareness. But each step is basically part of the awakening, as it starts from the bottom and you work your way up. And we have courses like the 9 hand seals to guide somebody through that real slow in a safe manner.
Okay. What is the purpose and mechanics behind breath work?
And the purpose of breath work is really to strengthen life force energy. Because in a spiritual awakening, when the Kundalini energy rises up, it's going to be burning up a lot of chi. And that could really make you tired. So you need to really build up enough life force energy to sustain what's called the microcosmic orbit. And that's when the Kundalini energy runs up and around, goes up the spine, and then around to the front of the body, down and back around. So when you practice the breath work, you're imagining a white or golden light, and you're bringing that all down into your belly. There's going to be a sphere that you imagine inside your belly, about 3 inches below your belly button. And you're going to imagine all of that energy compressing down into this sphere. What that is going to do for you is start to fill up the battery, because your body is like this electrical system. The energy is the chi, the life force, and the belly is your battery. And so when you're doing your breath work, you're filling up your battery, you're charging your battery. Because if you don't charge your battery, when you flip that switch and you turn on the whole system, you're going to run out of power. Kundalini is going to sleep, and you're done for a while. You know, so we really need to fill up that battery, and we get into really deep into the electrical system of the human energy system, and the courses I deal with on esoteric electrical engineering, and much, you know, the second course of my elements course, of course, which is the electro and magnetic fluids, deal a lot with that. And the second course of the 9 hand seals goes into the occult anatomy and the esoteric electrical engineering even farther as well. But you really need to fill that battery. You need to charge that battery up. Otherwise, what you're going to do is you're going to start draining your primordial chi. Now, your primordial chi is chi that you got from your ancestors, your mother, coming directly from your mother and father, and it's your entire family is hooked up into that chi pool. Once your physical body runs out of it, you're dead. There's nothing you can do about it once your physical body runs out. And
you mean dead? Like,
yes,
funeral
your body's
day?
going to die. That's what your body is running off of. Your life force. Your body runs off of that. If you drain it, yes, you're dead. Your body's going to die.
So what are some of the symptoms that to warn you that your body's like, hey, you need to recharge here, or this is too much amp for my voltage, or whatever? How do you know if you're running low? What are
You're start to feel tired.
The warning signs? And okay, but we all feel tired at some point, and we all get the flu. But I mean, like, how do you really know?
Yeah, you'll start to feel tired. You'll start to get sick. Your immune system will drop, and you know that you're draining your life force, because your life force is what keeps you healthy. It's what keeps you strong. It's the reason why children have so much energy, because they have all that life force. But as they grow older, then you start to notice that they get more and more sluggish. They don't have that. They're not doing cartwheels all over the place anymore. And if they do, it takes a lot of energy and effort for them to do it, and they're really tired afterwards. And that is because naturally we start draining our energy sources as we get older just to maintain our bodies. So breath work is the one thing that's going to keep you young. It's going to keep you healthy. And if your energy is strong, when your health is in peak condition. And so if you can keep healing your body, and even if you do happen to get sick for whatever reason, you can keep healing, keep regenerating your body. You know that your life force energy is strong.
How do you know if you are having a spiritual awakening? Like, what does that feel like when you're having a spiritual awakening? How do you know you're having one?
One of the signs of that is going to be heat starting in your pelvis and running up your spine. Some people have reported, and this was my experience, electricity. As they meditate, they start getting electrical shocks, like static electricity, but they're not moving, they're just sitting there, and they're getting the static electric shocks running up either through their feet and legs or just through their hips, depending on if they're sitting in a chair or sitting on the ground and with your legs crossed. And so that is one of the first signs of the life force awakening, is you're going to feel that increase in life force, which is going to be perceived as either heat or electricity.
So when you start feeling that, what do? We contact you? I mean, I don't know. What's the next step?
Repeat that question?
When, like, let's say I'm feeling that, what do I do next? Do I contact you, or what do I do?
That means that you're on the right track, and what you will do is you'll keep going with your program.
Do you teach, do you have a syllabus of what you teach, or?
I do, and you'll find that on the website. And what we start with is going to be just your basic meditation and breath work, the life force, energy conditioning. You're going to go into first seated meditations, and then the standing meditation. You'll find those in courses like Zariguian Awakening and Way of the Thunder Dragon, where you're basically, in those courses, what you're doing is developing the life force energy. And everything's going to start with training you how to develop your life force energy, and the basics of metaphysics.
Now, when we were in my kitchen and you were trying to explain to me how my body is connected to my soul, and you talked about breath, and can you explain that again? Like the breath, there's energy in oxygen or what we breathe, and so when you breathe in, you're feeding oxygen to your body, but to your energy force, you're feeding energy that's in the air?
Yes, the chi I was talking about, the life force energy, that is in the air, but it's not the air. Mm-hmm. So we have this life force. We're in this pool of life force energy. It surrounds us, and it penetrates our body, penetrates every other body. And so it is the living thing itself. And it's like a gigantic ocean. And we're inside of this gigantic ocean. We're a part of it. It's a part of us. Now, through our attention, we focus on the chi collection point that I was talking about earlier. And we focus on that 3 inches, that sphere, 3 inches below your belly button. And you bring that energy from the outside, inside. Starts, of course, through the nose, but not just through the nose, but through the pores of your skin. It's going to come right through and into your body. And you keep filling up and keep filling up with this energy, concentrating it, because it's spread out. And what you're doing is you're concentrating this energy that's around you down into this sphere within you.
Okay. So how are we connected to the planet? Like, what roles do the planets play in spiritual work? Are we talking like planets like Mars and Venus, or are we talking like horoscopes? I mean, how do planets play a role?
Well, after you learn life force energy, you start to move on into the elements. And then once you get a firm grasp of the elements, then you move on into learning the planetary bodies. Now, we're not talking about planets like up in outer space, no. And those bodies in outer space, they were actually named after the spirits that are within your soul. And the elements are part of the soul, and when we build that up, but the chakras, each chakra corresponds to a different planetary force within us. And these different forces, and so you got the sun right about there, Venus, Mercury. So each one of these forces, within your soul, which is commonly referred to as the astral body, all right, that's what we're developing they're aspects of your higher self, the energy that is you. And so each time we develop one of them, we develop a new aspect of ourselves, a new power within ourselves, and we learn something new about ourselves. And that's the importance of actually doing this work, is because you're going to learn so much about who you really are through the development of not only your life force, but the elements and the planets.
Okay, so a little sidetrack here, but you mentioned something about Gator people. What's that about?
The Gator people, yeah. You read about the Gator on my website, and a lot of people have asked me about where they fit in. And so after you learn the planets, and you'll also be learning the 9 hand seals. And then once you get to a safe level in your development with that, you'll be introduced into the Gator system, which are a type of Naga, which is an energy force that on the spirit plane, they look like these alligators, or alligator people. They are connected to the chaos energy. The chaos energy is unformed energy. It causes disruption in your life because it's unformed. When it comes through, it has no intent.
It has no purpose.
Right. It's just raw energy, and it comes through. And because it's kind of like say like when you make a cake. All right. You take all this stuff, crack the eggs, flour, everything, and once you got this cake batter, which is so much goo, you know, you look around your kitchen and you got dirty dishes all over the place, flour, empty eggshells. You pour it into the thing, and then you got this goo inside this pan. You put it in the oven. It's heating your whole house up. All this state is chaos. It's part of every creative process. So I created this course. What do we do with that? Well, we got to clean it up, right? So while you're going through all these different courses in your spiritual awakening, you're going to be creating this huge mess, and you got to deal with that. You got to clean that up. So the Gators come in, and you run the Gator course, and you're going to be given some secret mantras and some secret sigils, some symbols to each of the Gators, and there's some other spirits you're going to be introduced to that are going to help you bring harmony back. And so you don't get so much into where chaos, as you know, if you don't clean that stuff up, becomes havoc.
Well, how do dragons come about? Like, what is a dragon warrior? And like, why would I want to get into that? What can I expect in that training? Tell me about dragons and warriors and what that entails as far as training is concerned.
All along this, we're still dealing with the syllabus as I'm talking here. But all along the path, you're going to be introduced to various dragons, especially when you start dealing with the elements, because each element is ruled by a different dragon. Basically, your dragon it's an awakened aspect of the Kundalini energy. So the Kundalini is referred to as a serpent when it's asleep. When it wakes up and it spreads throughout your nervous system, its wings, it is then considered a dragon. And that's the awakened aspect of the Kundalini energy, where you yourself are transformed into a dragon. The dragon being the awakened masters on the other planes of existence that are helping you and guiding you along your path. A lot of times people think the dragon is this reptile. This is the symbol of the dragon, and not the dragons themselves, which are life force energies. They are the spiritual masters that are existing, most of them existing on the 13th dimension. There's 13 dimensions around the earth. Most of them existing in the 13th dimension, although there are dragons of the underworld, and there's 9 realms to the underworld. We'll get into all of this stuff. Dealing with the dragons is important upon your path because of the mastery of the Kundalini energy, which is really what you mean when you're talking about enlightenment. When we're talking about enlightenment, we're talking about more light. So you expand into more and more light. You're bringing more and more light into the dark aspects of yourself, brightening them up, awakening yourself. It's a never-ending process. The dragon is a big part of that, because the dragon itself is one of the highest vibrations of light that we can think of, or we can perceive. And so we deal with these dragons. And the Gators, I was talking about the Gators earlier, they're dragons themselves, a type of dragon, very ancient type of dragon. But these are energy forces. The word dragon has lost a lot of its meaning because it's really not a layman's word. It is actually really a technical phrase. And so those of us who really study this stuff, we know exactly what phenomenon in the universe is being referred to and when we say dragon. And so we're dealing with some really highly technical metaphysics. And so we have jargon, like any other field of research has its jargon. And dragons are actually an aspect of that course of study, which is metaphysics, that we deal with when we actually start to go into our darkness and bring light into it.
So you teach all this, and I'm kind of wondering, so there's different teaching methods and different teachers and stuff, and how are you different from other teachers? How do you teach this, and how are you different from other people who teach this kind of stuff?
Well, most of the teachers that I've been compared to are, what they're doing is teaching energy work, various types of Reiki. I do make various types of Reiki available to all my students because it's good for you and it'll help you along your path, but that's not the focus. A lot of people scattered as what exactly they're doing. Some people really focus down on ethics and how to be a good human being. I make some of that available too because we might need that. You know, we might need to be better human beings. But my main focus really is soul development. I call that ennobling the soul, enlarging the soul, in which we take our soul in its undeveloped stage and turn it into what is called an immortal fetus. And that's why we bring all that energy down into our gut. We have to create what is called the immortal fetus. It is what is going to grow up into what is called in alchemy circles as the solar body. This is the body that we're going to actually use to take us to the spirit realm. Because normally, when you don't do this, what happens is you'll die. That's gonna happen to everybody. You know.
Oh, okay. I was wondering if that meant like today, or like when I do it, or like when I'm 90 years old. Like, okay, sorry, that was a little scary there for a moment.
That's everybody's duty. We're gonna be born and you're gonna die.
Okay.
Okay, we gotta make peace with that one. So when we die, for the most part, most people forget who they were because the process of death is so extreme. It's so traumatic. Your whole memory is lost. Your whole identity is gone. The whole course of study at spiritual...
You mean traumatic for the human soul?
Yeah, it's traumatic for the soul. You can't remember who you are. You're ripped out of your body. You were stuffed in this body. You became accustomed to it. You became attached to it. And now you can't hold on to it anymore.
Okay.
And you're ripped out of that and into a new world, new existence. And you forget. Well, when we make the solar body, and this is the whole purpose of the spiritual path, it has been in all traditions around the world until religion started coming up and people forgot what they were doing. But the whole purpose is to create this solar body so we can smoothly transition into it. Instead of dying, we can choose to move into this new body. Leave the earth body behind. It returns to the dust. It belongs to the earth. It belongs to the ancestors. It stays here.
That reminds me of, like, for some reason, tarantula comes to mind when it molts, they call it, when they're shedding. Mm-hmm. You know, like a snake sheds,
right.
And so once it sheds that shell, that outer skin or body or whatever, it forms a new one, right?
Yeah, that's the reason for all the snake metaphors about the nagas and everything, and the Kundalini energy being a serpent, where we shed this body. You know, we shed this body, and we go on in our new bodies.
Yeah, I had a friend who had a tarantula, and he videotaped it, you know, losing its body and stuff, and it almost looked painful to the, because it's going through that struggle, and at that time it feels very vulnerable because, you know, a predator could easily come. And so do you offer protection to your students?
I do. I offer lots of spirits that will protect you and guide you along your path. I help you find your spirit animal and your upper realm teachers. I also help you burn up a lot of your karma if you decide to apprentice with me. I will help you burn up your karma. That process will also provide you with what's called spiritual coveraging, and that is when I place my spirit over yours, so anything that's not in your highest good that comes for you hits me first, and you won't have to deal with it because it's not in your highest good to be dealing with that. When you're at a stage in which you can deal with that, then it'll come. But you'll be able to deal with it. You'll be confident enough. You'll be strong enough to handle that kind of test.
That's a lot. So you take on that from your students. You
Yes.
give them protection, and then you take the hit first until you feel they're ready to handle it, right?
It's part of part of my commitment to those who I took an oath to serve.
So tell me more about your teaching and your teaching style, and how are you different from, because I would imagine that, you know, if I'm going to go into this, I want someone that I feel I can relate to,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and so what's your teaching style? How do I know you're right for me?
My teaching style is crazy wisdom teacher.
Okay, that doesn't sound too attractive. I don't know about that.
I'm learning other styles, but all the time. But crazy wisdom teacher is basically what that is when one acts like one thing, but he's actually another. And so, if you look at the stories of like Bear Rabbit, you can look that up on the internet and read the stories of Bird Rabbit. You can read the stories of the Native American stories about Coyote. Coyote is considered a crazy wisdom teacher. Raven. Read the stories of Raven, another crazy wisdom teacher. And basically they do things in an unconventional manner. Instead of a lot of teachers, the popular teacher will tell you exactly what to do, when to do it, okay? And crazy wisdom is not that direct. What I'll do is I'll tell you what's happening in my life, or what has happened in my life, what I faced, how I faced it, how I got through it, and what I learned from it. And when you face your own trials, and these are tests that you set up before you came to this earth, you contracted to learn certain things. So when you learn what you need to learn, then you'll be able to see how I face similar situations and take that and apply it to your life through example. It's a way of teaching that is it's not always fun for me to do, but the rewards when I see somebody get it, you know, and then I can sit back and say, okay, well that was worth it, you know, because I helped this person.
sometimes when we're in pain or we're going through a challenge, we feel like nobody else is going through this, or other people's can't understand what I'm going through. Like, for example, let's say a woman who lost a child, or a man who, I don't know, went through war and has PTSD, or, how would you help them? How would you deal with that in teaching them? What would be your teaching method?
Well, I've had
because they might feel like you can't relate to that if you haven't actually been through it. Right. So, what would you say to somebody like that who has concerns or doubts?
I've had my own experiences in life, and I can relate to a lot of different things because of the different things that I've experienced in my life. Now, obviously, there's going to be some things that I have not experienced, because nobody can experience everything. In which case, I have dealt with other people who may have gone through similar things, and I've been able to learn from them. The thing about life is we experience what we think is suffering. It's not really what it appears to be, because all the gurus tell you that this is an illusion. It doesn't mean that it's not real. It is real. It's just not what we think it is. An illusion is a trick, something that is happening, but it's not happening the way you think it is. So our suffering that we go through, and I have my own that I went through, but I learned through it.
You're also an empath, right?
What's this?
You're also an empath, right?
Yes, I am. I am an empath, which means that I pick up on other people's emotions. I keep that off most of the time, but when I'm working with a person, I'll turn it back, I'll turn it on, and so I can experience and I can relate to what they're actually feeling. That's helps me with the emotions. But we have to understand that these experiences that we have, no matter how tough they may appear, we have what it takes to get through them. Otherwise, they wouldn't be there. Because these are tests, and these tests aren't designed to see what we can do, but to show us what we can do. It's to show us what our true power really is.
Okay, and I think you've answered a lot of questions. I'm just kind of curious about the stuff you're wearing. What does that mean, the necklaces?
Repeat that?
I'm curious about your necklaces. What do they mean? What are they?
This one right here was created simply as a piece to honor my ancestors. This is a piece that was made in Africa, and then I have beads that represent, the dragons and different energy forces to help heal me. Each bead is going to represent something that important to me personally. So this one was just designed to honor me and my ancestors and help me along my path. This one here is my mala. This is called the Kali bones, and there's each one of these is carved, is yak bone carved into a skull, and the goddess Kali, and she is known to wear a garland of skulls, and so this is representation of the goddess Mahakali, who wears those skulls around her neck. And so each time I chant on one of these and I move this, then that is a demon or shadow in my life that I can let go and get rid of. Because the goddess Kali, when she attacked the demons in the world, she would destroy them completely by drinking their blood out of a skull. She drank their blood. And each time she did that, then they couldn't come back, because if she found out every time she killed one, its blood would spill and it would create another one. And so this, along with my practices with the Kapala, helps me face my shadows, and so I don't have to keep facing them over and over and over and over again. I use this power, of course, to help others. And then, of course, I have charms on here as the alchemist coin, and that is about, in a nutshell, that's about basically about turning something that's worthless into something that has true value. It's just alchemy, transmutation. And then I have the Furba, which is to protect me from evil forces. And this energy, every time I chant for somebody on this mala, all these energies are put into there. And then this here is the dragon around a lapis stone, which represents supernatural powers and communication. And then the dragon itself, of course, we talked about the Kundalini energy. This is a representation of